In the finale, Ahsoka Tano faced Darth Vader inside the ancient Sith temple on Malachor. She cut through part of his mask, saw the ruined face of Anakin Skywalker, and heard her old master speak her name through the damaged voice box. Then the darkness came rushing back, Vader raised his blade again, and the temple began to fall apart around them. But what if that moment had gone differently? What if Ahsoka reached Anakin before Vader could bury him again? In this version of the story, Ahsoka doesn't lose Anakin in that temple, and the galaxy doesn't survive that change unchanged. Let's begin. The blade had already cut through the side of Vader's mask. Sparks hissed across black metal, one lens gone, his burned cheek exposed to the cold air of the temple. Ahsoka stood in front of him, breathing hard, one white saber still raised, while Ezra and Kanan ran for the ship below. For a second, everything around them seemed to vanish. No temple, no Sith holocrons, no war, just master and apprentice staring at each other across years of pain. Then Ahsoka spoke the one word Vader had not heard in a lifetime. Sky Guy. His saber lowered an inch. The temple groaned. Stone cracked overhead. Firelight flickered across his ruined face. Ahsoka took one step closer, then another. "Come back," she said softly. "Please." His hand shook. The red blade in it buzzed wildly, then steadied. The yellow rage in his eye faltered. When he answered, the voice that came through the broken mask was not Darth Vader's. Snips! That was the moment. Not a victory, not a cure. Just a crack in a wall that had held for nearly 2 decades. Ahsoka deactivated one saber, then the other. "I'm not leaving you. Not this time." Anakin looked at her as if he had been dragged out of deep water and did not yet know how to breathe. Memory slammed into him all at once. The Jedi Temple, Mustafar, Padme, younglings, fire, Sidious, years of hunting people he had once called friends. His knees buckled. His lightsaber hit the floor and rolled into the dust. Then the temple started to die. The floor split under them. Pillars came down in sheets of stone. Ahsoka lunged forward just as a wall of rubble collapsed from above. She expected Vader to push her away or disappear into the dark side again. Instead, Anakin lifted his hand. The stones hanging over her shuddered and stopped in the air. He was already dropping, already half buried beneath the collapsing chamber, but he kept the rubble off her long enough for Ahsoka to dive clear. Then the strain broke him. The stones crashed down, the floor gave way, and both of them disappeared into the heart of the temple. Ahsoka woke to darkness, dust, and the sound of mechanical breathing so damaged it barely worked. For a moment, she did not know where she was. Then she pushed a slab of rock off her chest and saw him. Vader lay pinned beneath shattered masonry, chest plate split open, one shoulder crushed, one leg twisted under broken stone. His mask was cracked wider now, exposing more of Anakin's face. One eye was closed, the other was barely open. He looked less like the terror of the Empire and more like what he really was, a man who had been broken and rebuilt too many times. Ahsoka stared at him, and for the first time she truly understood. This was not armor. It was a cage. She closed her eyes, reached into the Force, and started lifting stone. It took everything she had left. Her arms trembled, her breathing burned, but one piece at a time she cleared him out. When she finally dragged him free, he was barely conscious. His fingers moved weakly toward her, not in attack, but like he was trying to make sure she was real. "You should go," he rasped. "No," Ahsoka said. "You don't get to tell me that anymore." She got him onto his feet for half a second, then realized he could not stand. So she did what no one in the Empire would ever believe if they saw it. She pulled Darth Vader's arm across her shoulders and carried him through the ruins of Malachor. Outside, the planet looked like a graveyard under an angry sky. Kanan, Ezra, and the others were already gone. The temple behind them was still collapsing, sending black dust into the wind. Far off in the silence, Ahsoka spotted Vader's fighter resting on the stone. Step by step, she dragged him toward it. By the time she got him into the cockpit, her legs were shaking so hard she nearly dropped beside him. She hit the comm, sent a coded call on an old fulcrum channel, and prayed someone was still listening. Static. Then Hera's voice. "Fulcrum, identify." Ahsoka closed her eyes in relief. It's me. I need a medical site, quiet, no questions, and I need it now. Hera paused. What happened? Ahsoka looked at the unconscious figure slumped beside her. I found Anakin Skywalker. The hidden medical station on Dantooine had never been meant for someone like him. It was small, buried beneath a simple outpost used by Bail Organa and Phoenix Cell to move wounded agents off the grid. When Ahsoka landed Vader's fighter there, every blaster in the hangar came up at once. Sabine nearly put a charge on the ship before Hera stopped her. Chopper started screaming the second the cockpit opened. Ezra moved first, then froze when he saw the black armor and the ruined face beneath the broken mask. Kanan's hand dropped straight to his saber. Ahsoka, tell me that is not who I think it is. It is, she said, and if we don't help him right now, he dies. Maybe that's exactly what should happen, Sabine snapped. Ahsoka did not turn around. Maybe, but not like this. Then Rex stepped forward. He had seen too much in too many wars to scare easily, but when the med droids pulled the mask the rest of the way off and the full burned face of Anakin Skywalker came into view, the old clone went still. For a long moment he said nothing at all. Then quietly, almost like the word hurt, he said, General? Ahsoka looked at him. Rex looked back at her and gave one slow nod. That was enough. The droids cut away the armor. Inside, they found what Palpatine had left him in. Failing seals, crude joins, needles dug into scar tissue. Systems designed to keep him alive, but never comfortable, never strong, never free. Even the medical team, people used to war wounds and imperial brutality, stared in disgust. One of the surgical droids said, Whoever designed this wanted pain to be permanent. Ahsoka answered without looking up. He did. Hours turned into a full day. The old suit was dismantled. The tracking systems were ripped out. The worst of the damaged cybernetics were replaced with cleaner parts built for movement instead of punishment. When they finally lowered Anakin into Bacta, his breathing settled into the first natural rhythm it had known in years. Ahsoka stayed by the tank anyway. She meditated beside the glass, trying to reach into the Force, trying to understand whether she had saved Anakin Skywalker or only delayed Darth Vader. That night, the Force answered with a warning. In her vision, the medical station burned. Stormtroopers flooded the halls. Sabine lay motionless under fallen durasteel. Rex was on one knee with blaster smoke rising from his chest. And in the middle of it all stood Vader, black and terrible, his red blade cutting through the room until it finally turned toward her. Ahsoka woke just as the blade came down. At the same moment, inside the Bacta tank, Anakin Skywalker was dreaming too. He stood on Naboo in green grass beside quiet water. The air was warm. For one impossible second, he was whole again. Padme stood in front of him wearing the same sad, gentle look she always had when she knew he was hurting before he did. You still have a choice, she told him. He tried to speak, but no words came. Then another figure stepped into the light beside her. Smaller, stronger than he remembered, white blades at her sides. Ahsoka smiled at him the way she used to before everything went wrong. Padme touched his face. If you love anything that was good in your life, stop serving the man who took it from you. Lightning split the sky. The meadow burned. Sidious's laugh rolled across the vision like thunder, and Anakin woke with a violent gasp. Ahsoka was already there. He sat upright in the Bacta chamber, chest heaving, new respirator lines soft instead of harsh. For a second, he looked around like a hunted animal, ready for battle. Then he saw her, blue. His eye was blue. Ahsoka noticed it too. Neither of them spoke for a moment. Then Anakin looked down at his new arm, flexed his fingers, and said the most Anakin Skywalker thing he could have said in that moment. This is better work than Imperial Medical. Ahsoka let out one breath that almost became a laugh. That's your opening line? It's the first honest thing I've said in years. He stood slowly. The movement was easier now, smoother. The suit was still dark, still severe, but the stiffness was gone. The old prison had been replaced by something that actually obeyed him. That seemed to disturb him more than relieve him. You should have left me on Malachor, he said. Ahsoka's face hardened. No. I killed Jedi. I hunted children. I helped build this empire. I know. You don't understand, Ahsoka. I remember all of it. Good, she shot back. Then stop pretending Vader is a different person. That hit him harder than anger would have. He turned away, staring at his reflection in the dark medical glass. You should hate me. Ahsoka folded her arms. Some days, maybe I do, but I'm not here because hate fixes anything. Before Anakin could answer, the station alarms flared. Not attack alarms. Internal security. When the medical door opened, 20 armed rebels were waiting outside. Sabine. Several Phoenix soldiers, 2 of Bail Organa's guards. Kanan at the center, jaw tight, saber in hand, but not lit. We're done pretending, one of the soldiers said. That is Darth Vader. Anakin went completely still. The room changed. Every person in it knew what he could do. He knew it too. A single breath, a twitch of the hand, the entire hall could become a slaughter. Ahsoka moved in front of him. No one fires. You can't be serious, Sabine said. He has butchered entire cells for less than this. Kanan's voice was quieter, but sharper. Ahsoka, step aside. Anakin looked at the blasters pointed at him, then at Ahsoka standing between him and all of them. Slowly, deliberately, he unclipped his saber and set it on the floor. Then he dropped to one knee. The whole hall froze. I won't defend what I've done, he said. If you want a prisoner, take one. If you want a weapon, I'm done being one. If you want Darth Vader, he should have died on Malachor. Rex stepped into the doorway beside Ahsoka. He surrendered. That already makes him different from the man we knew in black. Kanan did not lower his saber, but he did not strike either. That bought Anakin one more day. Then one day became 3, because he started giving them things only Darth Vader could know. Imperial relay codes. Listening posts. Fuel depots hidden in dead systems. The names of officers taking bribes from the Senate while secretly moving Kyber for Project Stardust. A prison transfer route that let Hera intercept a convoy and pull 30 captives out before they ever reached an interrogation center. The rebellion began winning too many small victories in a row. Palpatine noticed. On Coruscant, the Emperor stood in his dark chamber and felt a shift he had not felt since Mustafar. Not weakness, not injury, betrayal. He reached through the Force for his apprentice and found something far more dangerous than pain. He found distance. That was when he knew Anakin Skywalker had not died after all. The hunt began immediately. Probe droids spread through the Outer Rim. ISB agents were activated. Loyalist commanders received orders with no signature attached, only a message that if Lord Vader was located, no one was to engage him without direct Imperial command. Back on Dantooine, Ahsoka did not need the Force to know what was coming. We can't keep moving forever, Hera said over the holotable. No, Anakin agreed. Which is why we stopped running. Every eye in the room turned toward him. It was still strange hearing strategy from the same voice that had terrified half the galaxy. He touched a display and brought up a rotating image of Coruscant, then the Imperial Palace, then a hidden network of maintenance shafts beneath it. Palpatine thinks in circles, layers, traps inside traps. He also thinks no one knows his habits better than he does. He's wrong. Kanan narrowed his eyes. And you do? Anakin met his stare. I built my life around surviving his moods. Yes. The plan was insane. Hera called it reckless. Sabine called it Imperial-level arrogance. Rex called it better than anything else they had. Ezra just looked at Anakin and said, "You really think you can face him again?" Anakin did not answer right away. Finally, he said, "Not alone." So they moved. Hera and Chopper handled insertion. Sabine rigged the lower access points with enough explosives to turn a secure corridor into a furnace. Rex led the strike team through the service tunnels under the palace. Kanan and Ezra cut the power to the outer security nets. Bail Organa fed the Senate a manufactured emergency to keep the upper levels distracted. And at the center of it all, for the first time since the Clone Wars, Ahsoka Tano and Anakin Skywalker walked into a battle side by side. The throne chamber doors blew inward. Palpatine was already waiting. He rose from his seat with no surprise on his face at all. Only contempt. His eyes moved from Ahsoka to Anakin and settled there with something colder than anger. "So," Sidious said, "the wreckage finally found its voice." Anakin ignited his saber. Red light flooded the chamber. For a heartbeat, Ahsoka looked at that blade and remembered every terrible thing it had done. Then she ignited her own. Palpatine smiled thinly. "You wear the mask of a monster and bring a Jedi to help you pretend otherwise." "Pathetic." Ahsoka stepped forward. "You don't get to define him anymore." Lightning exploded from Sidious's hands. Ahsoka rolled clear as Anakin raised his saber and took the full blast into the blade. The chamber went white. The floor cracked. Royal guards rushed in from both sides and were met by Kanan and Ezra cutting through the entry as Sabine's charges detonated below them. Then it became chaos. Ahsoka moved fast, white arcs of light crossing and turning aside Sidious's strikes. Anakin pressed from the front with the brutal strength Palpatine knew better than anyone. For years, the Emperor had controlled the pace of every duel by controlling Vader's pain. He reached instinctively through the Force for the old suit's weaknesses. They were gone. That was the first moment real fear touched him. Sidious changed forms instantly, becoming speed and fury, red blade flashing through the storm of his own lightning. He drove Ahsoka back, then pivoted and slammed Anakin into one of the throne pillars hard enough to shatter stone. "Look at what she made you," he hissed. "Soft, hesitant, weak." Anakin rose from the rubble. "No," he said, and for once his voice was calm. "She reminded me who I was before you found me." Sidious lunged. This time Anakin did not meet him with rage. He met him with clarity. The duel changed all at once. His movements stopped looking like Vader's heavy domination and started looking like something older, cleaner, more dangerous. Not the reckless brilliance of the young knight from the Clone Wars, and not the crushing brutality of the Sith Enforcer either. It was both of them stripped down to what mattered. Ahsoka saw it and smiled through the fight. That was Anakin Skywalker. Master and apprentice moved together without needing words. She drove Sidious off-center. He blocked the escape line. She cut high. He struck low. Palpatine was still terrifying, still faster than either of them wanted, but for the first time in many years he was fighting two people he could not easily turn against each other. He screamed and unleashed a wave of Force energy that threw everyone in the chamber backward. Ezra hit the far wall. Kanan dropped to one knee. Guards flew like broken dolls. Ahsoka slid across the floor, sabers skidding sparks. Only Anakin kept coming. Lightning crashed over him again. His suit smoked. His face twisted. For one terrible second, Ahsoka thought the old nightmare was returning, that Vader would be dragged back out through pain and fury. Instead, Anakin took another step, then another. "I believed you," he said through the storm. "That's all you ever had." Palpatine's eyes widened. Anakin reached him, caught both Sith wrists in metal hands and held them in place as the lightning rebounded into the Emperor's own body. Sidious screamed, trying to tear free, but Ahsoka was already there. She crossed both blades at his throat. The chamber fell silent except for the Emperor's ragged breath. Palpatine stared from one former apprentice to the other. "You think this ends the dark side?" Ahsoka shook her head. "No, just you." Her blades moved. When it was over, the throne room felt suddenly smaller, like a poison had finally been drained out of it. Anakin stood frozen over the body for a long moment. Not triumphant, not relieved, just empty in the way people get when the thing they have lived inside for years is finally gone and they do not yet know what comes next. Then Rex's voice came over the comm. "General, we really need to leave." Anakin blinked, almost startled by the old name. Ahsoka touched his arm. "Come on," she said. This time, he did. The death of the Emperor did not bring peace overnight. It brought panic, infighting. Admirals turning on Moffs, governors sealing their sectors, Imperial officers lying about succession while the Senate tried to understand what had happened. But without Palpatine pulling every thread, the machine finally began to break where it had always been weakest, under the weight of its own fear. Anakin's knowledge shattered the rest. Project Stardust was exposed years early. Kyber convoys vanished under rebel raids. Black sites were emptied. Force-sensitive prisoners who would have disappeared into the Inquisitor program were freed before the Empire could ever chain them. Systems that had bowed to Vader out of terror rose the moment they learned Darth Vader was gone and the Emperor with him. The rebellion did not win in a single battle. It won because the monster at the heart of the Empire chose, at last, to stop feeding it. As for Anakin Skywalker, he never tried to stand in front of the Alliance and ask for forgiveness. He knew better. Too many people were dead, too many worlds had burned. Some scars did not vanish because the right choice came late. But he fought, quietly, relentlessly. He hit the Empire's hidden shipyards, its cipher vaults, its last networks of fear. He did it in the dark, where Darth Vader had once lived, and every time he came back from one of those missions, Ahsoka was there to make sure Anakin came back too. Far away on Dagobah, Yoda felt the shift and said nothing. On Tatooine, Obi-Wan looked up into the night and felt something he had not felt in years. Hope. What if Ahsoka turned Darth Vader back to the light side on Malachor? Then Malachor wouldn't just be the grave of an ancient Sith war, it would become the place where the Emperor truly lost. Not because of a fleet or a throne or a superweapon, but because one person looked at the most broken man in the galaxy and refused to believe he was beyond saving. And Darth Vader, the terror of the Empire, would end not in hatred but in a choice. If you enjoyed this alternative timeline, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more Star Wars stories, and may the Force be with you.